By my early 20s, I built a YouTube channel to over 50 million views, made six figures online, and even invested over 200,000 into the stock market. Now I share what actually works in business, YouTube, and personal finance. Now, most people in their 20s and 30s are quietly making the exact same mistakes that will guarantee they stay broke forever. If you don't fix these now, you'll wake up at 40 wondering where all your money went and all of your time. So here's exactly what you need to do right now to break out of the trap. Number one, live below your means early. This is hard, right? Because as people, right, you get older, right, you move out. Maybe you're fortunate enough to live at home, right? But people move out, right? You get an apartment, maybe a car, right? You have a car note, right? You have, utilities, rent, all these different things. It's so easy to get caught up in the hype of, oh, I see this person with that. I have a little bit more freedom, right? I'm on my own. I could spend this money however I want, right? The cars, clothes, all these things. It's so easy, right? And social media makes it where you can see everything, right? So it's easy to look at what everyone else has and just say, okay, yeah, I need this, I need this. And it's almost like a cycle that never stops. And even, things like eating out as well, like all of these things kind of stack. Now, of course, you have to budget for what your splurge should be, right? So majority of the time people have a one area or maybe a couple areas where they know they can spend a little bit more money, but then others where they can cut back, right? And that's of course budgeting and just financial literacy in general. But those things that you do to flex on other people, right, and show that you're wealthy, drain your net worth and drain your money like crazy, right? Of course, cars, right, expensive cars, you have car notes, right? You could get tickets, right? There's so many different things, right? Maintenance, of course, you have to pay for, insurance, right? All these different expenses that literally you could almost double your monthly expenses just by getting a car and everything else that comes with it, right? Then you have the clothes, right? So, you see people with designer, right? The sneakers, the hats, all these things, and it makes you want them. Now, of course, today's society is a little bit different because a lot of times people are just buying replica items nowadays, which, hey, you're saving your money and you're getting the same look, but you have all these things, right? And it's just easy to almost flex on other people like, oh yeah, you have this, right? But what happens is as you continue to upgrade your life, you're basically decreasing your freedom, right? Because the more you give your money to someone else, the less freedom you have. Now, if you're investing into a business or an asset that can actually make you money, that's one thing. But a lot of times these are just liabilities that are literally just going to take money out of your pocket, right? And upgrading that lifestyle, especially when people see things like, maybe you get a raise, for example, right? People just tend to spend even more money instead of using that cushion to build a bigger freedom gap where they, you don't have as much stress financially, right? So you really need to treat your 20s and 30s like the foundational decade, right? You have to use this time to build a strong foundation because when you have a strong foundation, it makes everything easier, right? For example, let's say you're trying to start a business. If you do not have a strong foundation, what's going to happen? You literally can't take the same types of risks, right? You can't invest your money maybe in something risky that could pay off tenfold, right? Have the opportunity to, but you literally can't because you're not doing what's necessary, right? You don't have the foundation. And that's what happens. You might have all of these different types of goals, but if the core foundation of your financial literacy, your financial position, right? Where your money's at, is it working for you? If that is off, literally everything else you do, right? It could be you're trying to get a house. Maybe your credit is bad, right? You're trying to get a loan for anything. Your credit is bad. All these different things could be a result because your foundation is not on point. And that foundation starts literally within you, in your mind, how you see the world, how you see money, right? And the habits that you have for yourself. So you really have to get the foundation correct before you do anything else. Number two, build skills that print money, right? So when people start businesses, what you have to understand, right? People have made money in almost every business you could think of, right? People have literally made money selling water, right? They sell bottled water. People sell air, right? They sell air in a can, right? All these different things. Those are just out of the box examples, but literally there are tons of different ways to make money. And what separates people, right, that are successful with those businesses and not successful are two things, right? It's number one, your internal operating system. So the internal operating system is just how you are, right? Where your time, energy, and attention go, right? Can you actually take time and focus on something, or are you all over the place, right? But learning these, having a good operating system, right, where you're running smoothly, your brain is sharp, right? Plus these skills like sales, marketing, right? How knowing how to manage money, right? Even coding, of course, with AI, coding is kind of getting outdated, but even knowing how to use AI and all these things, that literally helps you to generate money, right? You can maybe get a second job, or you can do side hustles, right, to start the business. And especially nowadays, you don't even need a ton of money to put up front to start a lot of these businesses, especially if it's a service-based business where it's just you're doing something for a client, right? And as long as you stack these skills, right, with sales, social media, which gives you a ton of exposure, right, and even finance and just knowing about money, that's how you really gain that leverage, right? Because what you want to do is divorce your time for money, right? You don't want to have, okay, this is the number of hours I work and this is how much you get. You want to have that pretty much exponential, so that even if you work a shorter period of hours, you have greater skills so that you can make more money. And maybe that's even getting some type of certification or something like that at your job that can literally allow you to make more money. Number 3, start investing even if it's small. Right, so there's this idea that you have to invest a ton of money to get started, right? And the whole idea of investing is, number one, we want to beat out inflation, right? Because if you keep money in the bank account, you're literally not beating inflation, right? What are you doing? Your money, you're literally gonna have less money over time. You're losing money if you just leave it in the bank with, most of these regular banks have no interest, right? But if we talk about investing, what happens is you can start to have your money work for you, right? So that you're not actively working for every dollar. But since you have these solid financial foundation, what you can do is have money literally generate for you while you're sleeping, right? And how you do this, of course, is, you take $100 here or there and you can start actually investing and not waiting for, oh, I need to have more money. Because a lot of this is compounding over time, right? Where people really see returns in the stock market and anything in general is just when things compound. And that's really your silent partner. Right now, of course, you can automate these things to where you can take a certain amount of money in your paycheck, put it away, and that literally will help you generate more money on the long term, right? You have index funds, things like ETFs, and of course, retirement accounts, which you should be taking advantage of, right? But the earlier you start, literally, the richer you'll become, because you'll have a bigger cushion and compound interest, plus you're beating inflation. You can literally make that type of money you want, right? But you have to start somewhere. It could literally just be $1. Now, number 4, cut the forever broke expenses, right? So car payments are one of the biggest wealth killers, right? And a lot of people say it, and you see how the numbers stack on top of each other, right? And like I mentioned before, it can literally double your expenses that you have, right? And you also have things like credit card debt. So America is in, millions, I'm sure in trillions of dollars of credit card debt, because a lot of times we really weren't taught those financial principles in school. So you have to go outside, right, to get that type of education of, what is credit? How do I learn to pay off my credit card on time, right? And it's not just free money, actually understanding what happens if you don't pay off these credit cards, right? That you'll be in debt, even the stress and just the mental, even the emotions that come with it is a whole nother thing, right? But credit cards and even interest can destroy years of progress that you made. Because of course, right, you miss payments, what happens? Boom, they stack. And then, you have all this stacked debt, plus you have a car payment and all of these expenses that you have on a car. And then, you're in all this stress. So what do? Instead of cooking your meals, right, making healthy meals, you spend all of your money, on Netflix and all these TV subscriptions. You DoorDash all your food, you order your food, you take Ubers everywhere, and literally you're robbing yourself blind, right? Because it's almost like a snowball effect to where one bad decision tends to snowball into another. But on the other side, if you make one good decision, a lot of times these can be exponential to make you even more money in the future, right? But you have to really take inventory and be careful of these expenses because they will add up over time. And it's not to say that you can't spend any money, but you need to be intentional about the money that you spend, and especially those areas that you like to splurge in. Now, number 5, monetize online, right? So we kind of talked about, gaining skills earlier on, but freelancing is another really big one that people can do, right? You can go on Fiverr and see literally the listings that other people are selling. And if you have those skills, or just even think about brainstorming with ChatGPT, use your own ideas to start brainstorming of what you could actually provide to someone, right? There's coaching, content, digital products, right? And especially digital products allow you to just pretty much drive traffic to an offer and you don't have to do any other work, right? And internet businesses is one of those areas that can literally has infinite scale, right? So there's no permission, there's no gatekeepers, there's no limits. It's just, you have an offer, some type of product you're selling, you drive traffic and you make income, right? It's that simple. So doing something like documenting your journey can be a really valuable way to where a lot of you are probably not experts. You might have areas that you're pretty good in, but documenting your journey can also be a really positive way to just show people what you're doing, what you're interested in. And a lot of times it doesn't even feel like work because these are areas that you would already be looking into anyway, right? I know for me, I wish I would have documented my journey earlier on because, for example, I was doing YouTube channels. And again, I had a YouTube channel that did 50 million views. And that wasn't something that I documented that journey. But if I did, I would have been in a much better situation, right? Because you never know what could happen on some of these platforms and you got to be careful, right? But people really buy from people that they relate to, right? So it's not just the information, but it's who's behind the product that people really do buy from. Now, number 6, network with winners. Right, so look at your circle, right? Because of course you are like the 5 people that not only you associate with, but even the types of people that you watch online, right? So for example, right, if you want to make millions of dollars, right, you want to be wealthy, well, what should you do, right? You should hang around wealthy people, right? People that are building businesses, right? People that maybe you're just wealthy from your job, right? Having these different types of skills. And if you don't have these people around you, with the amount of content out there nowadays, you should really pick people that you're consuming their content, because not only can it inspire you to learn from them, but you can also learn some type of gems that you could obviously use to make even more money and gain those type of skills. And buying courses and learning from other people online is not a bad thing. Definitely not everyone is a scammer, right? There are people that are genuine out there that can literally change your life if you take the advice. Right? So literally look at your circle, and not only your physical circle, but your digital circle, and see, how can I upgrade? How can I get in these types of circles? What are these people doing that I'm not? Right? And collaboration beats competition. So you can be with people and network and learn something that you just never would have came across if you were just grinding alone on your own. Now, number 7, think long-term, act short-term, right? So you got to have an idea of where you want to go financially, right? If you say financial freedom, well, what does that mean to you? Right now, a lot of people want, if you're watching this, you're probably interested in financial freedom, right? Freedom over your time, location freedom, or all of these things, right? But think about the daily actions that will get you there, right? Saving, learning, networking, investing, building businesses, right? All of these different things. And especially if you can build a business, have a high income, and invest a large percentage of that income, that's literally an opportunity and almost a formula that works for a lot of people to build wealth, right? So try to ignore those quick dopamine hits, right? The likes on Instagram because you have this finance lifestyle, all of the validation, the flexes, and play the compounding game, right? Validate yourself and just know that you're in a stronger financial position when you take these actions. Now, if you do like this video and you learned some, give me a like and click this next video on the screen to learn more about finances and these type of topics.